Jason Robinson. I am the director of Future Advisory. Also have a podcast called the Numbers Game Podcast. Just done about 217 episodes over a couple of years. So the director of an accounting firm is the main day-to-day thing. I also fortunately get to work with Xero on their partner advisory council for the better part of 6 years. So pretty involved in that tech kind of space with them. And on CPA's Public Practice Committee, I've recently been promoted to the chair for next year. So feeling pretty good about it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Lots going on.
You're a man in demand.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then that's the challenge. I feel for my PA Beck, who she's always trying to juggle the calendar and fit things in, and I'm just going to make it work. And yeah, I think she's got a job cut out for her, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for fitting in the Statement Brand podcast in your very hectic schedule.
No, my pleasure. I saw the branding pop up of, the firm, and I was like, oof, this looks cool. This is exciting. So yeah, I wanted to be part of it. And obviously anything that, Trent and Journey put their name to as well, I know that's going to be pretty polished and pretty slick. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now,
Pleasure.
Jason, you've got your finger in a lot of different pies. You're a very busy person. You're, like we said, a very sought after person. You've won a number of awards. Recently, you won the Xero Accounting Partner of the Year. How do you split your time between running a firm and doing all these other bits for your personal brand, or do you see them as kind of the same busy day?
Yeah, it's all intertwined for me. Definitely, there's not X amount of hours I'm over here doing Future Advisory, and this is what that role looks like, and then it's separated out. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, Greg, who's my business partner in Future Advisory, we wear different hats. He's COO, CFO, he's ops, workflow. He's focused on a lot of the day-to-day fundamentals of the business. And then if we're both playing to our strengths, I get to be doing sales and marketing, and kind of lead gen, closing deals, winning new clients, all of that kind of work. And the flow on of that, and including making Future Advisory look like a great place to work as well. There's many factors of that marketing funnel is not just for new clients. It also involves nurturing existing clients, and then it also involves, if we go to market to look for a new team member, what does a potential team member see when they look at Future Advisory or Jason and Greg as the directors and founders? So it's definitely intertwined. Even the brand of the Numbers Game podcast and doing that with a financial planner and a mortgage broker got nothing to do with Future Advisory, but Future Advisory's clients can listen to it. We can have different guests from different places that mean they don't have to associate with Future Advisory. So just, opens up and broadens the spectrum. But at the end of the day, it points the brand back to not so much anything about the Jason Robinson brand, but how do we then hone everything back into Future Advisory and benefit our brand as an accounting firm and the growth that we're trying to achieve over the years to come.
I really love this idea of playing a broad game, but specifically playing a brand awareness game. Like a lot of people talk about brand awareness as a necessary step towards a sale or towards a client coming on board. But you seem to take a different tack where brand awareness itself is important and kind of getting, especially with your podcast, a broader net cast out into the world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, the podcast as well was around, there's only so many people Future Advisory can help. So if we're limited to who we can help, how we can help them, but as a purpose, we believe that small business owners or individuals should be armed with the financial information to be able to make better decisions about their future. So somebody who, is looking for some kind of advice, but maybe doesn't necessarily have the money to jump into a big strategy session, if we can point them to a podcast episode we've recorded where they're going to get an exceptional amount of value, that feels like us being able to achieve part of our purpose of helping people have a better future, even if they can't be Future Advisory's clients. And then, the flow-on effect, at Future Advisory also means, we've got a big back catalogue of information to be able to solve problems, blogs to be able to write and link back, YouTube videos. Yeah, but it's a deliberate, the deliberate thing of doing that years ago, we just knew that if we got in and started doing it, would be better from the experience. And our clients or the listeners that have come back episode after episode, it's amazing sometimes you meet someone who goes, hey, I listened to your podcast. I've listened to every episode and I've learned so much. My business is way better off because of it. It's like, man, that feels pretty good. Like it doesn't necessarily mean there was a flow-on effect of money in Future Advisory's bank account, but that's another raving fan who can say, hey, go and speak to Future Advisory. Those guys know what they're doing.
I love the idea of raving fans. I caught myself recently. I host a number of podcasts, and I'm a very spreadsheety kind of person. Oh, what are the numbers doing today? What does this social platform following have? And I'm also big on the build in public. So I shared some of those stats and insights with an audience, and an audience member said, I think you're forgetting the impact that you could have outside of the numbers. And it was such oh, of course, like how silly of me to think that this information that Jason, that Chad, that whoever is putting out in the world could have an impact that is outsized to the potential dollar value that you could ever attach to it.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And even in the numbers, like some people are like, oh, that particular podcast had 1 million downloads. It's like, cool. For us, it was about quality over quantity. If we've got 500 listeners that religiously come back to consume our content, and then we've had, and again, it's not about necessarily winning clients, but also if you're doing brand awareness and building a position in the market as being an expert, for example, the fact that, we had a phone call from a random construction company in Sydney that was like, hey, we've got this, particular consulting job we need done. We want a quote. I think I threw something like a $25,000 quote at it. And they're like, yeah, done. When do we start? I'm like, holy shit. Like, and that was just cold. Like it was just someone who got referred to the podcast from a mate who was like, hey, you should hear this. It sounds like something you need for your business. And so there's been random like little wins where you're like, I didn't realize how far it was reaching and who it was getting to. But yeah, it's been cool. It's been fun. At the end of the day. Yeah.
It's interesting. I have seen a lot, especially this tail end of the year, people talking about how do you become a preferred supplier for people? How do you become someone where people come to you as their 80% decision has already been made? And it's things like this, right? Like a podcast, a blog that you have. How do you plan your content and your strategies around, okay, are you building up a how-to knowledge base, or is it just the current topic of the month are you talking about? Like, how do you plan that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, a lot of it is really ad hoc in a sense that, between me, the accountant, Nick, the financial planner, Marty, the mortgage broker, we got to a rhythm where we'll all bring one episode each and we'll record 3 at a time, for example. So we're trying to make it easy and accessible for us, to as 3 busy guys running businesses, we couldn't have a huge amount of time getting sucked into this side project. So, and also having a producer. So again, like we're big in business advice going, if it's not where you play in and you're not the best at it, outsource it to someone else. Like from day one, we've had a social media agency that posts on Instagram and Facebook for Future. From day one, that person was writing blogs and doing the website. And then from another company was doing SEO. And like people were like, oh, day one, like you didn't have that many clients. Why would you invest in SEO on day one? Well, we knew that it was going to be 6 or 12 months before whatever we were putting online started ranking on Google. So it was the long game for us, was kind of, we've always been playing in that space. And then from a content creation point of view, there's different buckets. So again, I don't come up with that stuff, working with an agency who knows this stuff, but talking about content buckets, one of the big ones is like the FAQs. What are the frequently asked questions that clients are coming to us with at the moment? And obviously a hot topic like AI, for example. I mean, the amount of times somebody will be like, hey, so what do you think AI is going to do, to my industry or, my business? It's like, well, hey, cool. Actually, we unpacked that for 45 minutes on the podcast. So rather than booking a meeting with me, paying me my charge out rate, whatever, like here, just listen to this podcast. It's free. Tell me what you think. So it's things like the FAQs are easy, the must know information for business owners, and then there's the hot topics too. I mean, like our recent predictions episode, a year ago, Nick predicted that Trump would win the election and be president again.
Nick, come on.
Yeah, he predicted it. He got it right. But he also predicted Elon Musk would go to jail. So he had a 50-50 strike rate. Sure, I think Elon Musk is safer than he's ever been at the moment. So,
well, we've still got a month left of the years.
True. So, but yeah, I mean, we also try and have fun too. I mean, like anything in life, if you have to commit, your job, your livelihood, you might as well be having fun while you do it. So I can honestly say every time I get in the room, and we use the same software we're using today, Riverside, we don't have to be in the room together. Again, that just breaks down the barriers of all of us trying to book our calendars to get into a podcast studio together. So try to make it easy. Like anything with marketing, if it's not the area you play in, let's say you're a damn good accountant, you run a damn good accounting firm, but you're looking at your marketing or your website, if it's not your thing, don't try and do it yourself, because you'll be the biggest barrier to your own success. Get some outside partners in to help, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I like the idea of remove as many barriers to entry or to hitting the big green publish button as possible. That's always been a struggle for me. I go, oh, I've got some great ideas, and then it's like, I want to video it perfectly, or I want to write a perfect caption, or I want to tag the right hashtags. But you're saying have a system or remove some systems that allow you to just go idea, publish as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah. And then if I was responsible for publishing half the stuff that ends up on the blog or the, social media, half the time I'd go, no, I don't like the way I look in that. Or, geez, I sound a little bit funny there. Like I don't necessarily go back and rewatch or re-listen to too many of my own episodes because I cringe and go, oh shit, why did I say that? Like I shouldn't have said that, but it's out of my control. A producer edits it, publishes it, puts all the episode notes up, bang, it's done. It's out there. And there's, hours and hours of content, and whether it's, the blog or YouTube videos or the podcast or future advisory stuff, like it's also getting a far reach too, and kind of making sure that we're covering, future advisory as a brand and then also as an individual, making sure that there's some far reach and coverage. And again, doing the stuff that I really enjoy. Like no podcast I've ever joined. I mean, I'm on a webinar on Wednesday with this week. We're recording ahead of time, but I'm on a webinar for AI with the CPA with Joyce Ong and Inbal Rodney, who's like this guru in AI. And I'm sitting there as like a guest on the panel, but I'm equally excited just to sit there and listen to Dr. Inbal talk about the things that she's going to talk about. So yeah. But if you're doing stuff you enjoy, I think you're also going to come across more authentic, and people are going to want to listen when you're coming from that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Inbal's fantastic. We love Inbal.
She is.
What I love about that is leaning into the joy of something that could be a little bit tedious. Like you said, 200 and something episodes of a podcast is not a walk in the park. That's years worth of dedicated effort. But to sustain yourself, you have to find the joy in that.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I think the other thing don't know whether I touched on completely is the education that I get from doing it as well. Like if you've got a view of learning and always being hungry to learn, I rock into those podcast episodes when we record. And to hear Nick and Marty speak, who, Nick's been running Innovate for over 15 years. And then Marty has scaled and exited several businesses along the way before he joined Innovate. So even myself as someone who's been in business, Future Advisory has been around just over 4 years. And I go, like, there's so much juicy stuff to learn when you're in a room with other people who have been there, done that experience. And even if I continue to make some of the same mistakes they made, they then go, oh, okay, this is what happened. We've experienced that. Here's how you turn that around, or you attack that from this angle. And sometimes we're doing that live in a podcast. Other times we're doing it off the side, pre-production, going like, shit, this just happened. I'm freaking out. They're like, hey, take a deep breath. This is what you're going to do. And I go, cool, guys. Thanks for your help. Like almost like my own little advisory board. So it's
what an unreal resource. I've kind of jokingly said to many people over the years that the best way to get in with somebody, a mentor or an industry that maybe you don't already play in, is to start a podcast. That's to either interview or to collaborate with people. I have a co-host on another one who just cracks the whip, which is fantastic, keeps me accountable, but I get to learn so much, and it's such a great resource. Jason, you said before that you don't listen back to the content that you do often. And
not often.
You might be overly critical of how you come across in some of that content. I feel like a lot of the people listening to this might experience the same thing, that almost imposter syndrome or highly critical self-view. How do you deal with that? How do you get over those nerves and that self-criticism?
I don't know if I fully get over it, but it's just, getting comfortable and knowing that it's part of the process and part of, development, bettering yourself. I think as well, we're all our own biggest critic as well. So I think it's getting comfortable with that. And over the years, I think the feedback that I've allowed, to come in is that, people talk about how good it is and how it's helped them. So now after a bit of positive reinforcement, you go, you know what, and actually, interestingly, I know it's, my own podcast that I'm on, but the episodes I do listen to and I go back to religiously are the ones that I'm not on, because I let's say I wasn't there, and when we do interviews, we drop one of the co-hosts that there's not 4 people. We go down to 3. And Nick and Marty, for example, had an interview with Adrian Hondros. He had a banking background. He was the CEO of Porter Davis, and he's now got a coaching and consulting company. And I sat there, I think, there's times you remember where you were, what you were doing. I was on Raymond Island going for a jog, and it was over Christmas, New Year, a year ago. And I just put the headphones in and went for a jog. And as I'm listening, and I'm like, shit, when I get home, I need to note down some stuff. There's some really tangible actions from like a strategy on a page, like revisiting, your mission, vision, values, looking at, your strategic objectives. And I'm like, shit, like I've just 45-minute run felt like it disappeared. I've listened to this podcast that, my co-host Nick and Marty have interviewed Adrian, and it was just epic. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see how like this stuff is of such value. And look, I'd love to get to a point where one day we're also, we self-fund it. We've had a couple of sponsors along the way. Fortunately, Dashboard Insights got behind us one season and gave us a sponsor and a plug. But it's like, while we're self-funding, we don't necessarily promote it on Facebook and Instagram and, push it up Google from an SEO point of view. We're not investing in it any more than just rolling it out to our own client databases as a value add, and then the organic growth from there.
You mentioned reviews and getting good feedback from people. It can be such a wonderful inbound input into your life of like, wow, I'm making a difference. I think there would be people thinking, if I put out a podcast, what if someone said, I'm an idiot, or they called me on something that I said that was wrong, or they don't like the way I speak, or they're particularly critical about something about me that I am quite fond of or already critical about. How do you deal with negative comments? Have you ever had any negative or negativity come towards you through the content you put in the world?
Yeah, big time. I probably, having not necessarily thick skin, but being able to like laugh it off or just like kind of brush it off. If I do go to the YouTube comments of a few of the shows, so we for like the first 180, they were like podcast platform only. And then we went to putting the full video eps on YouTube, like this. And there was a couple that were like, there's some comments that just kind of ripped into me on, something I'd said about something. And, I didn't even pay enough attention to exactly remember what it was, but I was like, if I like really got into the nitty gritty of what these people were saying about me and why they were having a crack at me or why they like Nick or Marty more than me, like I could, you could spend some time getting consumed in it, but obviously you can't. If you attach it to your bigger purpose of why we're doing it, which I really value helping people. I want people to get the help that they need, whether it's through engaging Future Advisory or just getting help off the podcast. So for me, like I'm not going to let something stop me from my purpose or my vision to be able to achieve those goals. So I think if you tie it to something bigger than that, you shouldn't let the little stuff get you down. But I mean, look, even like reviews of your business, like putting yourself out there on Google, or one thing that we need to start moving towards is, we want to do Net Promoter Score, NPS. And that scares the shit out of me. Like, honestly, like it's so scary, the thought of like sending that survey out to bulk people, just going, how are we going? And then just getting that that pulse back, and then you got to do something about it. And like, even though I believe at my core that we're doing a great job, do I believe we're perfect? Hell no. Is that the point of an NPS? Yes, so you can improve. But is it still raw and scary to think that, you're giving, people an opportunity to, unleash on what they're feeling at that point in time? Maybe they're having a bad day and they're going to give you a really shit score. And, it's a scary thing. But all in business and, in what we do, if you're getting your 5-star Google reviews, getting your reviews on any other, media that you're putting out there, like a podcast, or doing an NPS, like it's just valuable pulses and checks that allow you to, make some little changes as you go if it's something not going completely right, or just reinforces that you're on the right page or on the right path if you are getting great reviews and great feedback.
Yeah, unreal. I would love to talk a little bit about the idea of niching and deciding upon choosing a niche. It's kind of the tried and true feedback you get from everyone of, if you want to do more, do less, and find your niche. What is your view of niching? And do you see that there's a value in picking a niche, or is the niche people that like me?
Yep. Okay. So I actually had prepared a podcast episode on this for our recording yesterday, and it got shit canned by the other guys. Like, no, we don't want to talk about niches, like stuff that. And that was like, usually we like to do that when there's a bit of a fight over who thinks one way and who thinks the other. So maybe, watch this space in the new year. There might end up being a numbers game up on to niche or not to niche was my headline of the show.
Well, when this episode goes gangbusters, you can use it as proof.
Yeah, link it through. But the niche thing, I think it makes so much sense in marketing. So to explain what I mean by that is at firm level, if a tradie comes to become a client of the firm and then an e-commerce client, great, we can help both of them. And we've got skills internally that can do both of them. But online, let's say I wanted to be the e-commerce expert, the e-commerce accountant. It's so easy just to do all the content on e-commerce related, profitability and reporting, CAC, website statistics, tie it all back to your P&L and your balance sheet. How do you grow brand value? How do you raise money? And it's all about, let's say, e-commerce. It's if you just got that one thing that you do and it's really niched and refined, you're speaking so specifically to some target avatar who then looks up your website or looks up that particular product or service and goes, these guys get me. Like 100%, this is who I should be working with. They understand, all my pain points and my problems, and they're going to help solve it. If you're ABC accounting and you do everything for everyone, you're not really connecting with that person. And as a brand, Future Advisory, if anyone goes and looks at it now, our website that we built 4.5 years ago, 4 or so years ago, when we first rebranded and relaunched a new firm, we weren't that. We are, we've kind of gone, e-commerce, retail, professional services, trades and construction. We looked at where the biggest groups of our clients were. And, we went, yeah, they're all the ones that we do really well. So we tried to talk broadly to 3 or 4 or 5 industries, and but the more I see, the more I want to refine it. I'm on a bit of a warpath for continuing to go down that path, and I'm a big believer in how niching can truly help you just refine and hone that marketing plan. But yeah, that's my side. I think as well when we talk to clients about what they're doing well when it comes to their own marketing. Some clients, again, same thing. They try to be really broad and capture everyone, but it's but who do you really want to work with? And going through that process with the client and going, who is your best customer? Okay, let's write that person on a board. Now, why is that customer the best one? Really great to get along with, great personality. We make good profit margin off their job because their books are always really well reconciled and blah, blah. Okay, cool. And you further refine that and go further and further down to then go, okay, this is why you love working with that person. Now, what if you could work with 100 of them and then get rid of the other 200 that piss you off and their books suck and you're losing money on it because you've got to get in and fix things every month? Yeah, I'd love that. Cool. Are you marketing or advertising to that one avatar we just discussed up front? Not really. Okay, cool. You get it now. That's why we have to talk to that person and get them to know you exist and come and find your firm. But yeah, I think I've kind of hit that. I'm pretty big fan of niching. What about yourself?
It's kind of like this 80-20 Pareto principle of hey, you could be doing a lot less for a lot more. But I recognize it's a bit of a faith step, right? To step off that cliff and say, I'm going to go all in on this one thing. What if it doesn't work? What if I pick a niche and no one comes knocking? What then?
Yeah, look, it's very interesting. Maybe you identified the wrong niche and didn't do your market research and look at how many were available and what to do. So, I feel like there's a bigger process behind the scenes of picking that niche. But again, if it's what you love and what drives you to get out of bed because you want to work with that particular space and you can say that you're an expert and you enjoy it, it is going to work. I'd go out on a limb and say, I can't see an example where what if it doesn't work if you've done the steps properly, if you've done the discovery, if you've identified who you want to work with, if you've done the research and put in the investment into understanding who you should be working with and why, you're going to get connections. You're going to make it work. But it's going to take work. It's not easy. It's not as easy as going, I'm the tradie accountant because I speak really well to tradies and tradies get each other. Great. another bunch of steps to really go down before you can really call yourself the tradie accountant. You might be doing industry presentations. You might be going out to site and speaking to 100 tradie business owners, and letting them know you exist and what you do and how you do it. You might be at the pub putting a bar tab on saying, come on down, and, with a pull-up banner. Like it's not as simple as just chuck a website up and, somebody Googles tradie accountant. There's a whole bunch of funnels that you need to kind of hone into your direction to make that work.
Love that. I am particularly keen on the idea of head down to the pub with a banner and put a bar tab on. Hey guys, come get your book sorted. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I haven't tried it yet, but I mean, I might go down to the Cherry Tree in Cremorne. There's always pumping out there when there's a sunny afternoon. I'll just take the Future Advisory pull-up banner and chuck a bar tab on and see what happens.
I think you're about to find a new niche. That's it.
Bar tabs.
Yeah, that's it. Bar tabs.
I got
probably cheaper than some marketing budgets, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Jason, it's almost 2025. What do you see for firms kind of sitting on that precipice of will I, won't I? Of do I invest? Do I go into personal branding? Do I explore what this looks like for us? What does that year look like for them if they commit? And what are the potential risks or opportunity cost to not do it?
Good question. Look, I think from personal experience, I just say I thoroughly enjoy what I get to do. So I think you need to understand that if you are going to put yourself out there and do personal branding, you've got to have that self-discovery of, what drives you? Like, is that going to excite you to be involved in things like this? Does the idea of being in front of a video camera and making content or standing on stage scare the absolute crap out of you? Because if you want to build that personal brand, these are the kind of things that, you're going to have to do. So you'd almost have what does building my personal brand entail? And kind of lay it all out. If you're looking at that going, that excites me, I'm willing to put in the work to build my personal brand, because I know then the flow on effect is my other brand, which is the, where I make my bread and butter, or where the money comes from that, puts the meals on the table. They're going to empower each other and it's all going to work hand in hand. You've got to, because the work needs to be done. I mean, fortunately for myself, I had a lot of great mentors early on in my career. Brent Saleh from SIVA, great guy, always out on stage, was a big part of the CPA Public Practice Committee. Then he was the chair. Then he was on Victorian Divisional Council. And I looked at that and went, I want to do that. Like, I want to be involved in the CPA to show that, accounting can be fun and exciting and not the stereotypical way the industry was viewed. And look, I've still got my work cut out for me. I think it's still a, bit of an old school view on what accountants are and what we do and how we do it. I've gone off a tangent, but yeah. So if you're interested in your personal brand, you've got to want it, because you've got to put in the work. You've got to be able to carve out time for things like podcast and video content and photo shoots and speaking gigs. Fortunately, again, CPA and Xero contact me and give me the tap on the shoulder and say, hey, can we get you to do this presentation? And I do it because I love it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. It is so about, does your personality fit? But I guess I would caveat saying that there isn't one way to do personal branding, right? There's the getting up on stage, there's the speaking on podcasts, but there's we've had other guests say that they were quite reluctant about doing personal branding, but recognized anyway just how powerful that could be. And so I've lent into other methods, so like writing content and things that are a little bit more suited for more of an introvert kind of style, but still that was tied to their personal, like their personalities and their ways of wanting to turn up in that world.
100%. And I think as well, then some people would view potentially that they've become stagnant and they haven't progressed personally as well. I think if you identify, or if it's identified for you that your personal brand is lacking, I see that as an opportunity for self-development. To do a bit of, education in the space, self-reflection, and then put yourself out there a little bit. And maybe that isn't, the videos and the speaking on stage. Maybe it is a podcast guest where there is no video camera. It's just talking into a microphone or having a conversation with someone on a couch, interview style, something a little bit easier to cut your teeth on. Then, as you said, the writing content or, getting involved in a Q&A panel at an industry event. There is different ways to go about it, and it's not all, the big scary stuff on stage in front of hundreds of people. But yeah, identifying it, putting yourself out there, and being okay with personal growth. If you've gone through X amount of years in your career and gone, okay, I'm at this point now, and kind of stagnant. We've just got to this roof but I want to break through that roof and find an all new ceiling. That's what I'd be challenging people to experience.
Yeah,
that.
I like that. It's almost a dare of like, you could do it. You could rise to it.
And honestly, sorry to cut it. More accountants and advisors should be getting out there and doing this. Like I know there is such epic people in our profession, and I've met so many of them. I'm like, these people are brilliant. They got much better brains and minds than I do. And I think the more people like that can bust out of those shells and share their experiences, their knowledge, and helping uplift Australia's small business community so that we can have more success and more prosperity. I think that's super exciting. And I think, the more we can promote that accountants are the backbone of this economy, I think it gets pretty exciting. But again, got our work cut out for us, but we're on the path and on the journey, and it's pretty exciting.
That's it. I think a lot of us tend to overplay certain things and downplay other things. We overplay that, oh my gosh, if I'm not on stage, it's not worth it. And if I'm not the keynote speaker at Xerocon, what's even the point? And then we downplay just how much of an impact we could have in a small local community. If you are a local accountant and you have 50 people or 100 people reading every single social media post you make, imagine having 50 people or 100 people standing in your car park right now, listening to every word that you say. It's kind of insane that you have that kind of reach and that the capacity to connect directly with somebody. And if you post every day or once a week, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that quality over quantity too. You don't have to do heaps and heaps and heaps. If you're putting quality content out and you've got a few people that are engaged in that, again, you're going to create raving fans, you're going to create well-educated clients, or you're going to create these people that are interested in what you're doing because they can see the value you're putting out to the world.
Jason, can you talk me through some of your early engagements in personal branding efforts? Maybe your first couple of podcasts, interviews, or the first time you got on stage. How did it go?
Oh, good one. Yeah, look, thinking back to that, breaking it down, I mean, the early days, I did one TV show with Koshi's Business Builders, or Bricks and Clicks it was. It was one of the Koshi TV shows, and I was identified through some government funding to become a small business mentor and advisor for this government project. And then they flew me in to be on this TV show, and I had to speak in front of a room full of business owners. And I had no experience doing podcast. I'd barely done, stage talking, speaking on stage. And all of a sudden
Speaking of bricks, I think there's some other bricks happening in that room.
Mate. And also that imposter syndrome stuff. Who was I? Why was I on a TV show talking to, bricks and mortar businesses who were going online? That imposter syndrome kicked in so early. And it was really, really tough that. Who was I fooling? How did I fool all these people to think that I was worth listening to? I was worth getting on the TV. And, that was a poo-poo moment. I would love to go back and have my time again now with the experience I've got of, 3.5 years of podcasting religiously for the numbers game, speaking on stage for CPA, doing engagements with Xero. I'd love all that experience under the belt, but I wouldn't be where I am today without the early experiences also, that while it scared the crap out of me, it also got me, kind of really interested in refining and bettering myself. And the speaking things went poorly, the early ones. I was also, of the habit of really limited preparation and just rolling in and hoping for the best, which didn't serve me too well at the start. But now there's a knack and an ability to, hold a conversation, take things a certain angle and have a belief in what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Can I ask what kind of preparation would you do that then kicked you into that next level where you felt, okay, I've kind of got a bit of a rhythm here?
Yeah, I think it was not over preparing. I think when I was over prepared and had a full script worked out and then tried to be too rigid and stuck on it, as opposed to natural flow, going, here's the 3 or 4 main ideas I need to cover. Or, if I was doing slides for a presentation, let's say a 40-minute keynote or whatever it was, I would end up with so many slides and so many words in the early days because I was like, oh my God, what happens if I get up there and I forget what I'm there to say? So I'd have it all on the slides and hope that I could quickly skim the slides and then stand there and razzle dazzle like I knew what I was doing. Again, it was fake it till you make it. And through the learning experience of doing this. And also what I'd say as well, the people in the room that are watching you do that, 9 times out of 10, they think it's just amazing that you're up on stage sharing value. My own internal reflections of how shit I was or how bad that was mostly just me reflecting, and putting negative energy on myself, because the feedback afterwards would be like, oh, thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't know you could do that. Like, that's really going to help me when I go back to work next week. I was the MC for Zero Summer Series back in January, February this year. Spoke in Melbourne, 500 accounting bookkeeping peers in the room, people that I genuinely had so much respect for were there in the room watching me MC this summer series event. The guest speakers were amazing. Again, much more much more easier going, but still the pressure of this event, it was a big one for me. I really wanted to deliver and make them proud that asked me to be the MC. And once I was up on stage and rolling in, flowed. It was amazing. It just felt so good. But somebody had come up to me during the first break and was like, you're an accountant like me. And like, I could never imagine me being on stage doing what you're doing. I'm so impressed that you've got the ability to do that. And I'm like, man, yeah, but it didn't come easy. Like it takes practice and time. And, thank you for letting me know that's how you feel. But, you can do that too one day if you want to. He's like, really? He's like, I think I'd like that. I'm like, yes. You can do that too. And it's just that belief. And but it started, like anything, it's like the first time you ride a bike, you're not going to be as good as, and then years down the track, riding a bike becomes, that muscle memory. It's easy. You pick it up and away you go.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. We always have a different view of ourselves when we do something versus our audience. I'm kind of reminded of, I used to play in a band for a very long time, and we did a pretty good job, but there are some gigs where we didn't do a very good job. And I remember one gig where I couldn't hear myself and I didn't realize my guitar was out of tune the entire set until my drummer afterwards said, dude, that was just horrific. What was happening? I got off stage and someone came up to me and said, that's the best gig I've ever been to. They had no clue that the guitar was out of tune, which is bizarre to me. But you just don't know the impact that you have on people or the context that the audience is turning up with.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's amazing. That's a perfect example.
I would love to know for that person that approached you at that speaking gig. Let's use them as an example. You're an accountant like me. I'd love to get up and do this kind of thing one day.
Yep.
I've not done anything in the personal branding space. I have a firm and I'm working, busting my ass every week. Give me a 30, 60, 90 strategy. How do I get started tomorrow? I declared my love for this to Jason. He said, I dare you to do it. Here's how you're going to do it. What are we looking at?
Good one. Look, I think anything you do, no matter what it is, starts with understanding your purpose and your vision. So like having that clear why. So if that person, great, they want to stand on stage and talk. Why? Like, what is the message? What drives them? What gets them out of bed in the morning? And you got to attach it more to that than just necessarily the desire for being on stage. So, you look and feel a certain way. So thinking that early stage is around foundations and clarity.
So
why?
Your first month is spent digging into the who am I? What am I here for? Who is it for? That kind of thing.
Yeah, because then that really then dictates, what's your brand identity? Who are you? Like, and why are you doing it? And then that way, then once you've understood your why or purpose, it then helps to, refine, who's your audience? Who are you talking to? Who do you want to talk to? And then you can start to build from there.
Excuse me.
No, that's
so.
All right.
If that's let's call that the first 30 days, right? So you're thinking about your purpose, your mission, your values. What does month 2 look like? How do you package that up? What are you doing with that in month 2?
Yeah, I mean, look, one thing that I've always done, and potentially this could be done as part of the earlier part as well, or part 2, but understanding who are your competitors or who's some analysis you can do on someone else who's out there doing it. So for me, as I said, I watched Brent Saleh do this early on, and I saw him get involved with the CPA. I saw his networks through Xero, and it was basically like R&D, which back then was rip off and duplicate.
No, so, I love that.
Yeah, and it was so I think identifying someone else who's doing it well, or looking at some peers and some other people in the industry and go, what they stand for, how they go about it. I really like and I'm going to do it myself. And you can start to, I'd be building connections. I'd go and have a cup of coffee or a beer with the people that are doing it well. I'd try and get on a podcast episode and meet and greet and talk. And it'd be getting out there and really getting an understanding of what's available, what's working well for others, and then where did other people find that it wasn't working. So a big discovery around, what you're going to be doing. And I'd have an MVP as well, like a minimum viable product to kind of workshop when you are talking to people going, hey, look, that's great. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I'm going to specialize in talking about. And, my brand, my personal brand and my identity is based off of this. And you can gauge your audience, see how they react and how they feel, and then permanently refining and seeking that feedback when you are doing that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the first month we're talking kind of depth, right? And then the second month we're talking about, it's almost like packaging and figuring out your playbook, networking. That's pretty awesome. I love that.
Yep.
And then so month 3, it feels like this is go time, right? What do we do in month 3?
Yeah, look, month 3 is go live, right? Go hard. You're working out, your customers, right? Who are you talking to? Customer experience, expanding your reach. You've done the refinement. And this is a big, this is what I did over years, worked into 30, 60, 90 days. But all that stuff you've done in discovery time where you're refining the process, talking to people, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. You're then going to package that up and go, cool, I'm going to go to market now, expand your reach, put yourself out there into the networks, and you're really focusing on, that go to market and go live. But again, because you started with your purpose and your vision as to why you're doing it, now you've got the longer term play of I'm going live. This is my, my presentation. This is my product that I'm offering or the service I'm doing. And there's got to be an end play of what it's all for. Now, I know my end play potentially is that people come to Future Advisory and engage Future Advisory, or people engage me for a speaking gig, whether it's, AI or running accounting firms or branding and culture, all these, there's a few different strings to my bow that I'm happy to talk about, which is developed and crafted over years. But that first 30, 60, 90-day person, you might have one or two things that is your niche, your thing that people want to talk to you about because it gets you so excited. People want to listen to you.
Yeah, great. That's fantastic advice. So that person who comes up to you at XeroCon and says, I'd love to be on the stage, at next XeroCon, they're stealing your gig, they're on stage, you're out of a job because the advice was so good.
Good. I would love that. I'd be front row clapping, but I'm also, shout out to Xero. Come on, guys. When am I getting my keynote spot on the XeroCon stage? Back in, I think, obviously Brisbane's been announced now, so pressure's on. I'll be messaging some of the senior leadership team to say, don't forget that I'm ready. I've been working on this shit for years. I've been here,
guys.
I promise I'll stop swearing if you give me the gig.
Yeah, great. Jess, what I love about how you just wrapped that up just then is that accountants fundamentally are about helping people, and this peer-to-peer knowledge sharing and supporting and celebrating each other is just inherent to who a lot of accountants and bookkeepers are, and it's something we love to see. And I think maybe we could end the episode on, like, people want to see you succeed. I think back to, like, you saying your first time on stage, it's so nerve-wracking, but the people in the audience, they want you to succeed. They're almost there waiting on bated breath. How do you feel about the state of the accounting industry and the interconnectivity and support that you see?
I love it, but I think I'm in a quite a unique position where I do have such a great network that I've built and fostered. And I'd say for anyone else out there who feels like maybe they are a bit disconnected from the industry or people, reach out. People are so happy to help. I mean, even myself personally, like, if you feel like, shit, I'd love a chat with Jace, I just want to pick his brain on something, like, that's what so many people are like that. I know that if I called Brent today, I had a phone call from, call him Uncle Craig. Craig Robinson runs a firm called Robinson Voss down in Mount Eliza. And we jumped on the phone yesterday to say good day. And it felt so good just to chat to another person in the industry who has similar problems or similar issues, and you bounce back and forward. And now we're going to catch up in the new year. We're going to go grab some breakfast and a coffee together. Fantastic. And that is our profession in a nutshell. It is people that are happy to help each other out and give advice. Andrew Vanderbeek from Illuminate, he's had times where he's messaged me going, hey, I can't hire this person, but I know they'd be great at Future Advisory. Here's a resume. You should give them a call. Had lunch with another accounting firm director yesterday who referred us a 2-year, junior accountant who they couldn't hire due to some family group stuff. So the more you can connect yourself with other people doing something similar to you that have the same, the same drive, the same energy. We are inherently, as accountants, we want to help people. And do you know who we want to help more than anyone? Each other. We want to uplift an industry, and the rising tide floats all boats. And the more good work we can do together, I think that's exactly where our mindsets need to be.
I totally agree. Rising tide lifts all boats. That's fantastic. Jason, for people who have loved this episode and loved you, because of course they did, where can people find you? What are your links? Tell us all about it.
At Jason Robinson CPA, I think might be Instagram. I should know this stuff as a personal brand thing. Jason Robinson CPA. If you Google that or look that up, you'll find LinkedIn, Instagram. Future Advisory is about to hit TikTok, which I've somehow avoided for years. But I'm seeing some of the fun content now. Going, shit, we've got to get over there. It's booming. It's growing. So there'll be Future Advisory on TikTok. And ultimately, the Numbers Game podcast. So if you YouTube the Numbers Game podcast, or look it up on Apple and Spotify and all the other things. But yeah, plenty of content out there. Always open for also people just reaching out direct who want to have a chat too. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Jason.